What a wild trip it has been.
Oh, man, it is not what I was expecting.
It's not. Well, let's talk about it in this week's podcast episode. We are going to be going a step further into the question, what made you take the plunge? Last week, we dove into our why and why it was so important for us to want to plunge into a different type of lifestyle. And this week, we're going to talk about the how.
What did we do to make it all come together? It was just one afternoon we just said Shazam.
And boom, it all happened.
Not really.
Mama says namaste. Mama says namaste.
1, 2, 3. Up with the rising sun, already on the run. Mama says namaste. Life is a tangled mess, and you don't have to stress. Mama says namaste. 'Cause today I will stand up and be all the change that I want to see in this world. Boys and girls, you gotta have to stand up to be free. Namaste in your home. Take a deep breath in, then let's start a brand new day. With Mama says namaste.
Welcome to the Mama Says Namaste podcast. I'm Ashley Logston, joined by my awesome husband Nathan as my co-host and partner in life. As we RV the States full-time and unschool our girls, we invite you to not only hear our story, but create your own. Join us in our binge-worthy seasons, where every week we'll take you from chaos to clarity by understanding personality styles, bringing awareness and intention into your home, not waiting for one day, and highlighting how the uniqueness in each of us strengthens all of us. Let's get started. We are now on our 48th state after RVing the States full-time for the past 2 years. But this was not the beginning of our journey. And there's more that built up to the point of where we are now. And so that's what we want to dig in a bit. So first off, before we do that, we haven't done in a while. We haven't done a Where Are We? And we have had some pretty amazing things here in Oregon.
Man, when was the last Where Are We update?
It's been like
Washington?
Yeah,
Olympic?
I think Washington was our last Where Are We update.
Well, man, since then we went down to Portland and really enjoyed Portland. It was a fun town. Mm-hmm. Lots of homeless people.
Lots and lots and lots of homeless people.
And lots of interesting people.
Mm-hmm.
Great farmers market.
The farmers market was fabulous. It was really cool, and it was a beautiful day. We walked around the farmers market, and there was an AIDS walk that was a parade going up the road, and so we stopped and we watched that going on, and just kind of walked around and toured around Portland.
And then, after we got tired of the rain, we went down to...
Well, so in Portland, yeah, we did hike.
Wait a minute, we were in Mount Hood. What am I saying?
Yeah, we were in Mount Hood.
That wasn't two different places.
No, we went into Mount Hood, and so we did a trip into Portland, but we also just hiked around in Mount Hood. We saw some beautiful areas, hung with my cousin's cousin, and they took us out on a hike, which they said, yeah, we just hike in the rain. However...
And we did.
Boy, did we ever. We hiked in a torrential downpour. It thunderstormed, which they were really excited about because it's not very common, apparently, for thunderstorms here. And
because the Southerners were in Oregon.
Exactly.
They needed a nice big old southern storm with big old fat rain.
That's right. Rainbows and unicorns. That day we actually created rainbows because not only did we hike in the rain, but also that day we saw a gorgeous rainbow overlooking a big valley. So... so we did Portland, and my friend back in Nashville was bracing for me to call her and say, all right, I found our place. This is where we're going to settle. She just was convinced Portland was going to be it. She was close.
She was close. We found a nice little town that we enjoy, but we're not going to tell anybody because then everybody else will run there.
Okay, it's top secret. We'll just say it's loosely in Oregon or roundabouts.
We've only been there for a week, so we'll have to go back and check it out. Make sure we want to really, really promote it.
That's right.
But, then from there we've moved down to...
We went to Bend next.
That's what I just said.
And, you just gave it away.
You gave it away, goofus.
God, we can't keep secrets. Okay, we keep secrets sometimes
Bend.
if it's needed,
There was
but
no
we
surprise.
will share. There's no secrets here. We love Bend. I really love Bend, and if Bend could be moved down to Costa Rica climate, I would be in heaven.
Then
I
you may
love
not
Bend in
be
the
a
summer.
Bend kind of gal. You love Bend in the summer. You haven't seen Bend in the summer.
Okay, I love Bend in the
You love the
fall-ish.
idea of
I love
what
the
somebody
idea.
said. Yeah.
You're right.
We got to
So-
go check it out.
So clearly we're going to be coming back to the Bend area. We really enjoyed our time there. It was beautiful and lots of things to do. And
Yeah, I mean, just some amazing natural features in the whole area.
Yeah.
A lava tube.
The lava tube was super cool. We loved it was the Newberry Volcanic National Monument.
Very good.
Newberry Volcanic National Monument was never ever on my radar. Yet once again, this is part of the journey that we love so much, is just stumbling on these things that we weren't even aware that we were missing out on.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden we go and it is, oh my gosh. I mean I put that area and that national monument up there in my top 3.
Well, it's just a
If even
testament to
more.
our national park and monument system. It's phenomenal.
It
I mean,
is.
it has so much reach, and there's so much out there. And I was really kind of motivated to try to go see them all.
I
There's
know. There's somebody else on
420.
Instagram that I follow, and they have just hit all of the national parks, and now they are going back through and covering everything else that's within the park system that's not an actual national park. So the national monuments and the national forests and things like that. And boy, we definitely could. They're so amazing. And then,
We've
the
been
junior
to a lot
ranger
of them
programs at a lot of them are so cool. The girls were able to score their first wooden badge.
Yes, big deal for
Mhm.
the junior rangers out there.
Yeah, so they have one metal badge from Washington and one wooden badge from Oregon, and then all the rest of them are either plastic or the iron-on patches. So they've gathered them from all over. But yeah, we did Bend, and then we just arrived today in Crater Lake area.
Yeah,
So
staying at Collier
Shallow.
Memorial
Mhm.
State Park. Really nice little state park.
and we experienced Crater Lake for the first time.
Oh my gosh, what a beautiful place.
And, Crater Lake is heard of. I mean, people know Crater Lake, but not everybody knows the story, and I sure didn't. I mean, I had no idea that Crater Lake was because of a volcanic eruption.
Don't tell them. Jump in a car and drive your little happy hiney out to Oregon and come see it for yourself.
It's amazing.
There's so much out there to learn. It's really phenomenal. So we've really enjoyed Oregon. Oregon was a great finish. We didn't do it on purpose,
Yeah.
but man, it really rounded everything out really well.
And yes, we recognize that there are still a few states that we have not gotten to, but we will not be RVing to Hawaii. We are dreaming and planning, and will accomplish Hawaii and Alaska and Puerto Rico. Well, we've been to Puerto Rico, but we'll hit Hawaii and Alaska eventually, but not necessarily by RV. That's kind of been some of our time in Oregon. So we have just a few more days in Oregon, and then we start our trek back east, and are going to try to hightail it to A, buy a new truck, and B, get back to family in Nashville, Tennessee for a little while. So that's kind of where we are in our adventures, and this goes back to, why are we on our adventures?
How did we get here?
Exactly. Last week we talked about, there was a lady that asked me, so on Facebook, she sent me a Facebook message. I'd reached out to her with her being new to travels, and she asked, why did you choose to take the plunge? Or what caused you to take the plunge? And it really goes perfect because it really, how we chose to take the plunge is kind of the 6 areas of focus that we focus on here with Mama Says Namaste. So last week we dove into the first 3 areas, the kind of the foundation of everything that I've established with Mama Says Namaste to create that intentional family, to take you out of chaos and reaction mode to living a life of intention and connection and not waiting for one day to really create that family you love to come home to. So last week we talked about the power of understanding our personality styles and how getting to the root of who we are can help so much in deeper connection because it's more than just that surface reaction, but it's the why below it. So we went into understanding those personality styles. And then we talked about how that, that plays in so much into the marriage that we have, the relationship that we have with one another, and then how that really impacted how we were going to parent and how we were going to raise our children, and being aware of these little beings that we have with us for such a short amount of time in the scope of things, and what we wanted to do during that time. So all of last week's episode was really the summary of the why behind why we would choose to do anything beyond just the stereotypical norm.
What can be tricky is sometimes getting over what you think everybody's going to think about you. That's something that, it's easy to fall into these rhythms and these social expectations, and sometimes those can really limit some of your desire. You can feel held back by what you've been taught or told is normal or successful or happiness, and it might be very different for yourself. And I think working through that is, that's part of a step that you got to have to prep for.
Right. So here we were living our standard American dream, and we had our, nice house in the suburbs and our 3 children and fenced-in yard, and everything was going well for us. And we started looking at what all did we really want out of this life, and what adventures did we want to go on? What did we want to do? What did we want it to look like? And the first thing that we addressed was the fact that we were starting to have kids that were going to be closer to school age. So the first thing was addressing alternative education, looking at education beyond the box of what we're supposed to do, or this is just the norm and this is how you're supposed to make it happen. Right.
It's easy to fall into the standard of, well, here's the only option.
Right.
Here's what I did. Or, mom and dad were fine with it too. And so it just, becomes very easy to slip into that, and that might not be the best scenario.
Right. Well, according to you, when we first got married, kids were going to be called David and Caroline and
I
and
wasn't
Clay,
that bad.
and they would go to public school, and you would work at Nissan.
That's
and
what I thought.
It was very much exactly what you grew up with.
Yeah. Well, and I think that, I think sometimes if you don't have your own dreams or plans in that arena, then it's easy to fall into...
It's easy to default to that.
Yeah.
And going back to personality styles, it's not... an S can sometimes, which S personality style is that steady and consistent and great listener and very supportive role. And the earth element for an S would be water. It flows. And so when you look at water goes toward the path of least resistance. And sometimes we can label that as a negative. Oh, that person's lazy. Sometimes it's not laziness. It's just simply seeing what the smoothest path is. What's going to cause the least ripple and conflict. And so you can fall into your life just being non-ripply.
Yeah.
Very smooth and flowing.
Well, we like to avoid that. We like a smooth river. And we also like adventure. And so you have to figure out a way to blend that. And we started stepping into that, I think, with our kids, kind of exploring, their life a little bit.
Right.
And being intimately involved in that with homeschooling and unschooling as that kind of evolved.
Right. So I came from a background of public school, private school, homeschool, group classes. I did the whole gamut. So I've experienced all aspects of it. I actually started with public school and I graduated. The last 3 years I did private school, and then I did variations of homeschooling and different co-ops and group classes in between there. So I had a wide variety to come from. Nathan had just the public school aspect to come from. And so as we started with our children, kind of discovering what would be a fit, we decided, especially because of my work not being something that tied us to a specific schedule. We didn't want to have a specific schedule we were tied to with the kids. And I think kind of somewhat of my aversion to being locked in kind of took us down a pretty unschooling path.
Yeah.
Where we added a lot of variety to it and weren't set on a specific curriculum or anything, because
we tried a lot of different things, and
Yeah.
we did some mixes of things. We did Montessori, we did Waldorf, we did co-ops, we did people that would come and watch them and teach them curriculum that we kind of discussed with them on what ahead of time. So
right. I hired a nanny at one point who she came in and it was tutoring / babysitting.
Yeah.
And she would come in and she was the exact opposite of me in personality style and was very detailed and analytical, and she would spend all kinds of time, researching, and she would look at, what are kids learning in their grades in public school, and she'd bring some of that in and teach it to the kids. So, we had a variety of all kinds of different teaching options when we were back, just kind of sorting out what did our kids resonate with.
And every single one of them was famously successful.
In its own right.
Right. I mean, if you look at it through that lens, they had exactly what they needed at the right time.
Yeah.
And, I think a lot of times we fear that we're going to ruin our children by doing the wrong thing. Like there's a certain secret formula that
right.
if you put them in the system, then everything will be okay. And I think that they are way more resilient than we give them credit for. And I think that we are way more creative than we give ourselves permission to be.
Man, well, we just read an article right before we started doing this podcast about lawnmower parents. So this is a new thing. Instead of helicopter parents, you have lawnmower parents. Now, I'll put a link to the article in the show notes so you can read this for yourself and see what you think about it. But
have you ever encountered a lawnmower parent?
Oh my gosh, yes, very much so. Not only that,
well,
but
let's define it first before we get to.
So a lawnmower parent is a parent who will kind of mow over everything to make a path smooth, so that they are trying in every way to not have their child get lost in the struggle. It says lawnmower parents will go to whatever lengths necessary to prevent their child from having to face adversity, struggle, or failure. And so it started because of a teacher who was just completely blown away at the ridiculousness of different things, like a parent frantically calling and coming in because their daughter, their child left their fancy water bottle, their Swell water bottle, because she wouldn't drink from the water fountains. And, how everything had to be switched around so that they could get their Swell bottle because it was an emergency.
Catering to their desire and needs.
Right. But then on the other hand, I have actually, I've been working with Acton Academy, which I love Acton Academy. It is an incredible model. It's almost like unschooling. It's private school meets unschooling. So instead of teachers, you have guides. And there is a very big part of the foundation of Acton being in allowing your child to fail. Or I say fail loosely. I don't want to say fail. I say struggle. I feel like it's only a failure if you don't learn
with adversity.
Something. Right. I feel like it's only a failure if you don't learn something from it. Yeah. And so I have been working with Acton families as a coach, kind of first and foremost to be there to help them to navigate the waters with their child. But really the underlying deal is going back to who they are as a family, getting back to their family center and their core, what their vision is as a family and what they want their family to look like. And it's also working with families on the beauty of letting go. We have a thing in our house, I mentioned it last week too. We have a quote that says, there are two lasting gifts you can give your children. One is roots, the other wings. And so often we want so much to establish that foundation and be that support for our kids that sometimes we don't give them the opportunity to have those wings and fly, or to struggle and feel what it's like. And it's so important. We devoted a whole episode just to that, just to understanding the power of the struggle and how critical that is for growth.
The struggle is real. Keep
Right.
it coming.
Right.
I mean, I agree. I think that, I don't want to get too far off on the helicopter or on the lawnmower thing, but I think that giving struggle and creating scenarios for challenge are really valuable in a child's development. And I think as a parent, we do want our children to have every success possible. But sometimes we don't recognize that failure is a success, and that's a big part of it.
Failure can be that stepping stone to success that you need in order to get there.
Yeah.
Again, so much of it has to do with what you learn from it. And I think this is a really important part because, yes, we have through trial and error figured out what works for us and for our children
We are
with schooling.
figuring it out, I would say.
Yeah, I would too, because it's constantly changing, and we change tactics with what's working and what's not and everything else. That being said, though, I think that on our path of learning together, our willingness to allow for the struggle is what has afforded us the ability to take the plunge. To
Yeah.
live the life we live now, the first plunge that we did was the risky thing of taking the responsibility of our children's education into our own hands and us choosing a different path than what was safe and comfortable. And we have had times where it has flopped. We have a tutor that didn't work out, or a co-op that we didn't click with, or we're just so frazzled I'm barking at the kids and
Right.
we're not learning anything. And yet we are learning because we're learning what's not working. And we're seeing the struggle, we're seeing the so-called failure as an opportunity for growth.
And I think that's the beautiful thing about taking a new step in a new direction is, it's just those little steps, those little shifts moving to the one side or the other that start to compound on themselves. And the next thing you know, your whole perspective is really shifted and changed.
Right.
Because when you nudge up against what's uncomfortable, your comfort expands.
Right.
We've talked about that before. What was that model that we saw?
It was a Marie Forleo video.
Yeah.
And she talked about your comfort bubble.
Edging up against discomfort, and then your bubble gets bigger. So as you grow and expand, and I think that it's true for adults, it's true for your kids. Starting to experiment with an environment that supports that bubble is really valuable.
Yeah. So we started with the alternative education, which is my fourth area of focus with Mama Says Namaste. And then we moved into minimalism. Minimalism was the next thing that we plunged into, so to speak. And it was because we started noticing what was not right, what was not sitting with us. We were feeling stressed out, bogged down. There was too much crazy going on, and young children at the house, and dealing with a toddler and an infant. I mean, we had a lot of just a hectic lifestyle, and it was feeling very cluttered. Not just by the physical things that were in there, but even the clutter in the head and the heart.
Well, I think that minimalism physically, your first mindset goes to your house. And that's a great physical, you can physically see what you've done. And it's a great first step into moving into some other areas of your life in that same avenue.
You can clear a countertop and it can feel really, really great, and you see it. Yeah, it's that instant gratification result of you seeing that there's a clear space for your eyes to rest.
Yeah, but I think that as you continue to grow, you have that opportunity to move into it in your own personal life, where you realize you don't need you may not need as much as you thought you did. Or you find a certain level of satisfaction in the things that you have right in front of you.
And that goes not just for the physical things, but that goes through the mental and the emotional
Right.
as well.
That's what I mean.
And that's where the head clutter, all of those lists of to-dos that are overwhelming you, that are looming like that big anvil over top of your head that's going to drop at any point, versus getting them out, doing a brain dump, taking that weight out of your mind and picking one thing to clear it out. Or with the heart clutter of just taking on the drama and the obligation and all of these different feelings where maybe we get so wrapped up in the emotion of something that we can't even see clearly with what's going on. So when we started to minimize, it was not just clearing out our house, although that really was helpful. Oh my gosh. I remember that when we cleaned out our attic, we thought that just cleaning out the house would be fine. And then we shoved everything up in the attic. And I remember a week of us just really tackling the attic, and it was crazy how much lighter I felt just in general, just by getting that weight out from above our heads.
It was like we could breathe again.
It was. But I think so much of it was because it was a therapeutic process, not just in clearing out the things, but then letting go of the drama or the attachment that might have been around that thing. And us choosing to let that go and not let that stay in our lives during that time. It wasn't just clearing the things, but also being very intentional about what things we chose to bring in, whether that would be a thing or whether that would be negative energy. And not to go super woo-woo, but just the dumping of emotional stress and drama and toxic behavior. When we would hash out difficulties that were going on with family members or with coworkers or life in general, we aired all our dirty laundry outside. We sat out on the porch. We let that stuff go off with the wind, and we go into our house as a peaceful sanctuary. And that was very significant for us in choosing just to be intentional about what came into our home in all aspects, physical, mental, and emotional, what we chose to bring into our sanctuary, as my mom says, our haven of peace. She wrote a book, Creating a Haven of Peace in a Broken World, what to do when finances are flat and tempers are rising. And she's always talked about creating a haven of peace at home, and I am so grateful that she instilled that in me to have that same desire to create our own haven of peace in our home. And that was really powerful too.
Yeah, I mean, I remember going into your parents' home and just feeling the difference and how intentional they were. I mean, they are by no means minimalists. I don't think they would.
My mother loves her dry roses.
They would gladly accept that fact. But I think that they were very intentional about creating an environment that was supportive for you to be who you were.
Oh yes, and even with the fact that they aren't necessarily minimalists. So much of it goes on how you define the word, because yes, I look at my parents' home and there's a lot of stuff in there, and there are a lot of stories that are behind the things that are in there. And my mom is cleaning things out right now as they're anticipating a big move, and she really is narrowing things down. And I know that's hard for her because she carries the stories in the things, and that's okay. She likes retail therapy. She likes to shop. And she enjoys the process, and they bring her joy. And I feel like when it comes to the physical things, minimalism is critical when you feel so weighted down and suffocated by it. And that's what I felt. I felt major clutter and stress. I felt my energy I just get tense walking into my home because of the clutter. My mother doesn't feel that way. And I will also say, though, that I think that they also have been intentional minimalists when it comes to the emotional clutter and the mental clutter. And they have been very strategic in how they have dealt with that, in not allowing drama to wrap them, to get them wrapped up in it, and taking mental breaks and naps and doing things to recharge themselves. So minimalism looks very different for different people, but it's the fact of just being intentional about what you choose to carry as a weight.
Yeah, I mean, just asking the simple question, what will this bring to me other than an excitement ping?
Right. And if you need an excitement ping, go for it. But does that excitement ping need to loom
just
over you?
Be honest with yourself about it.
Right.
And be gentle with yourself, too. I mean, you'll have good days, you'll have bad days, and
that's when you give yourself grace.
Exactly.
Yeah. So then all of this boils down to the sixth big one. The reason where people do have those questions for me, where they've reached out and they've asked. I'm active in some of the full-time families RVing groups and have really gotten excited about kind of being a start here for a lot of newbies. I'm in the process of working to do a rally for dreamers and newbies, people who are dreaming of being on the road or people who have just hit the road with their families. And so I've been working a lot in this arena. And so I get a lot of people that ask, why did you choose to take the plunge and go full time with RVing? That's this really scary thing to do. And so in getting to that point, all of these other areas we had to address: personality styles, marriage and family, parenting, alternative schooling, minimalism, and now family travel. And this really goes back to us really asking ourselves, what's that feeling behind the goal? If we wanted to travel, what kind of feeling did we want to have when we would do this?
Yeah, it was really changing our goal setting model.
Mm-hmm.
We have been chasing a financial model for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of, well, this is the standard expectation of growth. And then we're just curious about this whole other world and saw that there were other people doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that kind of gave us the courage to say, well, man, why not?
Right.
What do we have to lose other than regretting? What do we have to lose other than regret? Because if you don't ever do it, you'll just regret that you didn't.
Right.
And so we figured out a way to make that happen. But it started little by little as we were working through our own relationship and parenting styles, and just kind of asking those questions of, is this important to me, and why is it important to me, and
Mm-hmm.
how do I move forward with it?
And we decided that travel was important to us, that we wanted to experience more of our world.
That it was worth investing in.
It was. It was worth it for us because there's always give and takes. There are things that we're choosing. I don't want to say it's a sacrifice. We're not choosing to sacrifice. We're just choosing a specific path. Our path does not have free laundry and long soaks in a bathtub. But it does have incredible experiences of walking around the world's largest volcanic, lake from a volcano, and the deepest lake in the United States. And that's what we did today. And it does afford us the opportunities to band saw-whet owls in Virginia and be able to, find a random island full of wild blueberries in Maine.
Yeah.
There's been so many fun things that we have experienced on our travels, and we wanted to raise our children to be aware of the world that's out there. We wanted to explore it with them. And there are lots of people where the only opportunity they get to do this is through a textbook or by watching a movie from it. And we wanted to get intentional about actually going there, seeing these places and exploring it. And thankfully because we planned for this, because we prepared and we kind of paved the way for it by building this foundation from the very beginning, just by simply understanding who we are with our personality styles and how we can create an environment where we all thrive and where the uniqueness in each of us strengthens all of us. By going through that, we just took little step by little step to get to the point that we were ready to launch. And I think some of that goes to the fact that you're never fully ready.
In anything.
No.
If
when
you're
are you
launching
ready
a business,
to
a
have
marriage,
a child?
Right, a family, anything. You're never fully prepared until you're never fully prepared until you just jump in and see how you handle the water. And that's really scary. And so you got to, practice jumping in other areas of your life that's not such a huge shift. It's not such a huge jump. That's what I suggest. If you're scared, if you're hey, let's strip it all off and jump in, fine. Go right ahead. But you can also do it and ease in if you want to.
The biggest thing, though, is just understanding that you're never going to be fully ready because you don't know what it is you're getting into. Just like with getting into,
anything you've ever done in your entire life.
Exactly. You don't know until you're in it. That's part of the life skills, the application. It's not just reading a book. I mean, my gosh, I hope that I don't have a heart surgeon that's only read how to do it in a book.
Right.
I don't want to be that first one necessarily, but they intern, they shadow, they practice. They learn about it before they actually get the tools to do it themselves. And you're hopefully asleep. Yeah. So, in the same sense, when it comes to travel, we decided that why not? Why wouldn't we do this? And us approach it with our family. It doesn't mean that we were guaranteed rainbows and unicorns all the time. But man, we've pretty much gotten it. And so much of it has just been simply because of our attitude. I would say that the past 2 years, I could describe a whole lot of drama. I could describe a whole lot of drama in our lives.
Yeah, we could have.
But we don't see it as that. We've seen it more as an entertaining story and what we've learned from it. But that's something it's been interesting how much attitude helps with it helps with your perspective and it helps with your plunge. The perspective and the plunge is both affected by attitude because when we have had stuff that has happened that's been
it gets back to adversity. If you're not able to handle that, and approach it with a jovial heart, my goodness, it's going to be terrible. Your experience is going to be bad.
You get what you brace yourself for, and
you do.
We very much believe in the law of attraction.
And for parents out there, you think about what you show, what you're giving an example of to your children and how to interact with this world.
Mm-hmm. Right.
If all you see is a complaint, then all they're going to see is a complaint.
You start prepping for those.
Yeah.
Right. So when we've had adversity happen on the road, I've made it a point to share it not as a drama, woe is me, look at what's happened, but as every time I have to post something like that, it's where is the silver lining, or what have we learned from this? What things are we grateful for? When we address adversity, we talk about that. We first, A, we assess the situation. B, we assign roles. B, I guess we get everybody up to speed, and then we assign roles. So we say, this is what's happening. This is what we need from you. Whether that is Nathan and me talking about how we handle it between the two of us and what we can do to help each other out, or whether it's cluing the kids in and saying, hey guys, the trailer blew a tire. We're going to go outside and work on it. We need all of you guys to stay buckled in your seats and chill here. Know that we're taking care of it. And then Nathan and I are outside, and he's doing one thing and I'm doing another. But
that's not true. Somebody shows up with an air compressor in the back of their truck and they change it in 10 minutes.
That's right.
Because we put that out there and we're open to that. And this is, I think that when you jump into a plunge like that, you have to be okay with the good and the not so good. But they're all the same thing. If you're patient enough for it to be, if you look for that silver lining.
Right, because all of these emotions that we have are fleeting. They all come and they go. So whether that's a good one or a bad one, know that it's only for a small period of time. You have the opportunity to move beyond this. And so that's where there is such power in relishing the present moment. After we have a situation where there is something that hasn't gone well, then what we look at is hey, what did go right? What didn't? Hey, girls, I so appreciate how you guys just completely... you listened, you guys worked together as a team. That helps so much. And
we just look at how thankful we are for all the things that didn't go wrong.
Right. We
Yeah.
always end with that gratitude analysis. Like, let's audit this whole thing. What are we excited? What are we grateful for? I mean, my gosh, thank God that the drive shaft did not fall out of the bottom of our truck while we were going down that huge mountain or through that tiny tunnel with no shoulder.
Yeah, no kidding.
And it happened only 20 minutes from our campground.
There was a nice group of, what were they?
Prisoners
That came
I'm very
by.
thankful that there was a respectful group of prison guys that did not do anything that would have made me more concerned around my children or anything.
Yeah.
There are so many opportunities where we have had stories, and we've shared them here on the podcast. We've shared them on social media. Again, not because of drama, but because, man, we're looking at every moment, every opportunity that we have as, what can we learn from this? How can we find gratefulness for what we do have? And how can we choose joy and choose love and choose happiness? Because it's a choice. It's a flat out choice. It's not like one family or one person is just granted life on a silver platter. And you hear this time and time again by these stories of these successful people that rose up out of adversity to be something that everybody told them they couldn't be. I mean, what we're doing is not something that is so uncommon and wonderful that we should be on a pedestal of we just got the lucky card.
No, not at all. But I think that it takes a little bit at a time, and it's like working out when you're changing your mindset around things. You just have to practice, and then it becomes natural.
Oh, that's such a great way to put it, though, because, I've heard about this so often with so many different things lately that, it's like working out. We all know that with working out, you don't just work out once and then you're golden with rock solid abs for the rest of your life. Unless you're Nathan Logston, and then it just comes naturally.
I work out.
No, Nathan thinks about working out. Anyway,
that's right.
And then you do. But there's so many things in life where it's the same thing. It's like working out. It's an exercise that you do every day. It's your daily practice of being intentional and of choosing this. If you want to choose health, you're choosing healthy food. You're choosing to work out every single day. If you want a happy marriage, you're choosing to love that person. And you're choosing to invest in that relationship and make emotional deposits every day. And if you're wanting to go out on an adventure, you're choosing to get what you want out of that adventure. And you're choosing whether or not you're going to say this is an awesome experience or not. Because you can have an awesome experience hiking in a thunderstorm.
or a miserable one.
Or in the middle of West Virginia with pipes frozen at 4 a.m. and deciding to check out. Even in a situation like that, where we were cold, we were tired, we were cranky, and we didn't even have any hot water or anything for
first
coffee
campers
in the morning. And what did we do? We laughed about it and moved on. And now it's a story that we laugh about. So,
and we know not to go back there in November.
We won't go back in November. So we've learned lessons along the way. We've plunged in so many things. But I would say that we all choose to take the plunge in the things that we choose to take the plunge in. Everybody has those stories. And whether your plunge is plunging into an 8-to-5 job, or
unschool,
or homeschooling and unschooling, or entrepreneurial lifestyle, or, it can be something, your plunge may be a super traditional one. But it's still a plunge because you can't guarantee what it's going to look like for you. It is a daily choice. And that's where we're at with our travels as well, is that we've plunged. We've plunged into alternative school. We plunged into a marriage and into having children and different types of schooling and minimalism and traveling. And, oh man, it's been a beautiful swim all along, hasn't it?
For somebody who's afraid of water, you sure do like to jump in all the time.
I do. So our challenge to you guys this week is, I want to hear from you. My challenge is to reach out to me and contact me. And of course, this can be for both of us. We have so many ways for you to reach out and connect. Because so often we can sit through life as bystanders to other people's adventure, but we don't actually take the effort to, or have the nerve to reach out or see how it could apply in our own lives. So if you go to the website, over on the right-hand side of the website, it says Talk to Us, and there's a little button where you can literally click record your voice, and it will leave a voice message for Nathan and me to hear. It comes in as an email to me, and I hear it, and I hear what it is that's on your mind, what you're struggling with, what you're questioning on moving forward, or what you want to hear more of or need to hear more of in order for you to take your own plunge. So you can reach us through the voicemail message. There's also at the bottom of every episode of podcast notes, it's have a question for Nathan and Ashley, submit it here. And then also there's so much activity over on Facebook, and I'll get private messages. I hop into the Facebook groups frequently and respond to any questions in there. So our challenge is, don't just be a bystander. Reach out to us. Let us know how we can support you, or what you want to hear more of, just to motivate you in order to take those steps yourself. So see what areas of your life you want to plunge into a little bit more. Learn a little bit more about it, and attract what you want to attract in this beautiful world. And some of the beautiful things is how different we all are, and how we all have our own perspectives and our own stories and viewpoints on the world. And the more that we understand that about each other, then we can really see
how the uniqueness in each of us strengthens all of us. Namaste.
2, 3. Up with the rising sun, already on the run. Mama says namaste. Life is a tangled mess, and you don't have to stress. Mama says namaste. 'Cause today I will stand up and be all the change that I want to see in this world. Boys and girls, you gotta have to stand up to be free. Namaste in your heart. Take a deep breath in and let's start a brand new day. With Mama says namaste.